Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. Welcome to the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have an amazing episode today. We got Tyrone Poole here in the house. Tyrone Poole is a two-time Super Bowl champion. That's right, two-time Super Bowl champion. And also he played in the American Ninja Warrior, which I think is cool. I wanted to highlight that. But let's give a warm welcome for Tyrone Poole. Welcome, Tyrone. How are you, sir?
Hey, Dr. Finance. Great to be on your show. It's an honor. I want to thank God for the opportunity. And hello to all those lovely viewers who are watching or whether you're listening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you again, Dr. Finance.
Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate you being here. And Tyrone, you're also an amazing entrepreneur. And that's why I thought it'd be appropriate also to get you here because, one, I want to teach everyone about what it's like how to be a champion, because there is a lot of similarities between sports and champions and business. And two, you also are a successful entrepreneur, so you know how to cross into the realm of business as well.
I'm trying to be a successful entrepreneur.
Well, Tyrone, you want to give us a quick 30-second snapshot of your bio, and then we'll get into your story right after.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm originally from LaGrange, Georgia, born and raised. I am a Georgia peach. You know, they say the women are Georgia peaches. Well, men are Georgia peaches as well. So born and raised here, LaGrange, Georgia. I reside in Atlanta. Went to school at Fort Valley State. That's why you see the FVSU hat, Fort Valley State University, which is near Macon, Georgia. It's a Division II HBCU, historical Black college and university. And then I got drafted by the Carolina Panthers, first overall, first ever defensive selection, praise God, in that team's draft history. Kerry Collins was the first player ever, but I was the first ever defensive selection in Carolina Panther history. Went on, won a couple of Super Bowls with the New England Patriots, retired in about 2009, wrote a book, Ultimate Success in the Game of Life, which I definitely would like to get into. Have a nonprofit, Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation.org. That's where you can find it. If you can remember my name and my football number, just add foundation and .org, Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation.org. And yeah, I got wonderful kids. I got a son, Tyson, just turned 16. Man, can't believe they're getting older and older. After a while, he's going to be asking for all kinds of stuff, Dr. Finance. And you know how that is. I know you got a family as well. And I know I'm over 30 seconds, but I got my daughter. My daughter, she's 21. She's in college. Both of them are athletes. My daughter runs the 400, 200. My son, he plays football, runs track. So as they say, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. My lovely mother still lives in LaGrange, Georgia. My dad passed in 2005. That was kind of tough during the season. So Brett Favre wasn't the only one that had to deal with controversy during, a time in his career. But, Brett dad passed away during a Monday night game. He still had to play the game. So, my dad passed, but we all go through trials, right? But it's all about overcoming. So right now I'm here in Atlanta, right here with you and right here with everyone else, trying to encourage, trying to inspire, but most importantly, giving people information so that they can have ultimate success in their life. So thank you again. Thank God. Thank you, Dr. Finance.
Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate that. All right, so Tyrone, now we'll get into your story for a little bit, and then after that, I got a series of questions. They ask you about 20 questions or so. Figure about a minute, 2 minutes each, and that's really the format for the episode. So let's start out with childhood. So you're born in LaGrange. Am I saying that right? Georgia. Is that right? Okay, so you want to tell us about maybe your first 10 years or so? What was it like growing up there?
Oh, wow. LaGrange, the thing about LaGrange, Georgia, talk about football from a sports side. It's a nice city, probably the population of maybe 50,000 or less, but nice city. Sits on the outskirts of 85 South, for those who understand Georgia highways. You got 75, 85. And even if you've been traveling through Georgia, going to Florida, you have to take 85 South. But LaGrange sits on the outskirts of 85 South, 50,000 people, like I said. But the great thing about LaGrange, football is rich in tradition. When you think about football, LaGrange, the state of Georgia, LaGrange is the second winningest high school in Georgia history. And a lot of great athletes have come out of the state of Georgia. So it's always been competitive. The neighborhoods were competitive, even though it was a great city. But growing up in LaGrange, presented challenges. We were financially challenged. So sometimes I had to be creative. So, but it was a lot of love in the house. That was the main thing that carried us over. And that's the main thing that carried everybody over is love. Love gives you passion. So it was a nice upbringing. But I learned a lot of stuff. I learned how to be resilient, dependent on myself, and just having that fight and that passion, that desire to cross the finish line.
Well, what were sports like for you in, let's say, under 10? Were you, because, I'm from Philadelphia. In Philly, we did anything we can in the streets, like street games. Like, so you take a football game, and now we make a street version of that, right? Next thing you know, everyone's getting hurt because they're getting their heads rammed into cars. But, hockey, we would take, like basically plastic bottles to cut the bottom off and make them, et cetera. So like, what was it like growing up where you were playing sports, and were you even playing sports under 10?
Oh man, that you hit the nail right on the head. It's a little bit different between this generation and our generation. It's like my generation, our generation, if we didn't have a particular item, like you just said, you just alluded to, we created it.
Yeah.
We created it. If we're trying to play baseball and we didn't have a bat, we'll find a broom handle and we'll break off the bottom that you sweep with, and we got a bat. If we didn't have an actual baseball, we'll play with a soccer ball, with anything that resembled what we needed. We did it. But no, I played sports, the neighborhood. I remember we just go from one sport to the other. We would play basketball. And then after we finished playing basketball, hey, you guys want to play football? Hey, after playing football, you guys want to go play strikeout? But we all knew one thing we did know: when the street lights came on and it was getting dark, you better be at your house because you did not want to deal with your old man.
That's funny. Did you guys play? We had a lot of interesting games here in the city. This could be a Philly thing. I know New York had similar games. They're only 2 hours away, but did you have we had half ball? We had a lot of games where we would throw like a rubber ball against the wall and bounce it, things like that. Like, did you have those kind of games growing up too?
Man, we had everything. We played. I remember us playing hopscotch. I like.
Oh, wow.
We drew the lines either on a concrete pavement or even sometimes in the dirt. I'm like, you got. I think it's when you do hopscotch, you got 3 boxes, single boxes, and then you have 2 double boxes, single, double. It's supposed to go to 9, I think. And then when you complete it, you actually throw an object, and wherever it lands in the box, you strike that box out. So you can no longer use that box to get you to the top. So now you have to be like more athletic. You got to be able to jump, to the next box. And if it's a double box, you got to jump to the double box, single, double, single, turn back around. So, but yeah, we created a whole bunch of games. Games I'm like, okay, where did this game come from? Okay, but hey, as long as you had numbers, you always got to have like a odd number. You got to have a even number. I'm sorry, you got to have an even number. So that's how you get teams. 1 versus 1, or you got 4 people, 2 versus 2. But no, we were very creative, man. Very creative. We couldn't wait to get outside.
Of all those sports that you played on the street and stuff and outside your house growing up, did you ever feel that like football was the one that was resonating with you the most, or you were impartial at that point? It didn't matter. Like you like them all?
Yeah, impartial. I think basically all parents, well, let me go back. I'm gonna say before I talk about the parents, all great athletes, no matter who you identify with, as they got older, they started to narrow down the sport, professional sport, because you can't be, I don't believe you could be 100% at two great things.
Unless you're Bo Jackson.
Yeah. You can't. Yeah. So I did multiple sports. I wrestled. And sometimes, before I got in high school to wrestle, you would have fights in the neighborhood. So you don't know if you would have called that wrestling or not. But wrestled. I ran track, played basketball, football. So I did multiple sports, but I think all great athletes, no matter who we can identify with, I believe if you go back and look at their history, they were multiple sport people. Even growing up in the neighborhood, they just did different sports, and but then as you get older, you pick one. But I would say to parents, don't let your kids say they specialize in a sport, not while they're growing up, because I believe, wrestling that taught me some mental toughness. I think it was track that added to my speed. I think it was basketball that taught me how to really coordinate and use my body in areas of freeness. So all those sports together, just like a mother and a father in that child's life will help that child maximize. But if you just do one or the other, then you cut off the other possibilities that you have. So I'm thankful that I was able to do all sports, but actually funneled myself towards football.
That is a beautiful analogy. I really like that. And I'm glad you were very open about that, because I think and that wasn't part of my question. I'm just trying to get to your story, but
yeah.
I think that's a question that a lot of people, like growing up or never met any famous sports players, they always wondered, like, how did they become a football player, a basketball player? Like, didn't they have interest in other things? But as you said, like, I agree with you 100%. It makes so much sense. And especially to be a champion at it, you have to be well-versed and pick up different skill sets along the way.
It's just like going to the grocery store. You ever gone to the grocery store? I know a lot of people watching the show. You have gone to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store just yesterday, and I'm over at the Apple section. All right. I'm going to put this very quickly into what I just said. Okay. I said that I played a lot of sports, right? I played a lot of sports, but I end up narrowing it down to one. Okay. But they all played a role. So I'm at the grocery store, and I'm looking at apples. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm the type of guy, I thump the apple. I'll thump it. And then if I get that like loud, like noise, then I know it's good. It's solid all the way through. But if I tap the apple, thump it, and it's deadened, the noise deadens, then that means that it's like it's kind of like maybe softer inside, or maybe it's, beginning to mature or rotten, could have some rotten spaces in it. So when you pick those apples, you touch this apple, you touch that apple. Again, I'm relaying this to like sports. I did a lot of sports. I selected a lot of sports to play, but I ended up narrowing it down to one. So I pick this apple, pick it up. I pick this apple, pick it up. I keep this apple, I put that apple back. And then eventually, when I walk away from the apples, out of all those apples, I selected the apples that I wanted, that helped me. So it's just like sports. I think all those sports give you an opportunity to squeeze, feel, thump, to see what your true gifts are. And then you walk away with the sport that really fits you.
That's beautiful. So what was it like in your teens? Were you still playing sports? And I guess you imagine you went to high school sports. You said wrestling already. And
yeah, wrestling. I actually ended up quitting wrestling. I quit wrestling because
you didn't. You didn't quit. You're talking to a wrestler for 4 years. Come on, you quit wrestling. Why?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I gotta say this about wrestling though. I did wrestling, but because back in the day, back in the day, they used to like get you to go from like 150. And I'm pretty sure anybody who's watching, they gonna say, yep, he is telling the truth. Now, all the new school people, because you're not used to the old school to the point, you're gonna be like, what? They really did that? But those who are watching, I'm telling you, Dr. Finance, they're gonna be like, you know what? I remember that exactly because I did it myself when they tried to get me to do it. But say if they didn't have anybody at 156, okay, the 156-pound group, and you weighed like maybe 70 pounds, they would try to get you to go from 170 to 156. And that would take a toll on your body. You're in there in this heated room. They would heat the room up so you could sweat. And some guys would have on like plastic bags, you know, so they could sweat even more. I remember the Gatorade gum. It made you just create so much saliva. And even the Gatorade gum now that you chew, if you notice, it'll make you create a lot of saliva. So chewing Gatorade gum and spitting and wearing these bags, and now you're looking, you know, it's like if somebody were to give you a hug, it's almost like the other person would be hugging themselves because you're so thin. But that was the reason why I gave up wrestling, because I'm like, I couldn't eat. And every time I went to the lunchroom, people would say, hey, Tyrone, I know you can't eat today. Can I have your lunch ticket? Like, hey, there you go. So I gave up wrestling. I said, no, wrestling is not for me, man. I love to eat, Dr. Finance.
You're talking to another same guy. Yeah, and I agree with you though, man. Like they definitely went over the top at some points. I actually I confirm exactly what you said. I lost 13 pounds, I think, in one night at one point. And as a bigger guy, I had a hard time. Now I started out my early part of high school, I was wrestling a very thin weight, but then by the time I was at the end, it was at the bigger levels. But it was yeah, it's frustrating, especially if you like to eat. But there's tricks though. There's a lot of tricks. Eating ice cubes, you know, satisfying that natural urge to chew, things like that.
Oh, so that's what you did? You did chew ice cubes to kind of.
Yeah, and I would make all different flavors too, especially like grapefruit juice is really good. So you get the tray and you pour the grapefruit juice through them all, put it in the freezer. Well, you put a stick on it, right? And you got yourself a popsicle, but now you got yourself not just a popsicle, that's a meal. And it'll take you 20 minutes to digest that, and your brain thinks that it's good.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And plus you got a little sugar in there. Kind of give you a little bit of energy and everything like that. Yeah. Okay.
Crazy stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So Tyrone, what other sports did you play in high school though?
I ran track. I really settled down with track and football. I always say to myself, man, I think I would have made a pretty good baseball player because I was good with my hand-eye coordination. Like you said about bouncing the ball off the wall that you guys would do with handball. I was very hand-eye coordination was very good. And anybody who has played handball know that you got to have hand-eye coordination, because you don't want to swing at the ball and the ball going high and you swing low. You got to have great hand-eye coordination and put that ball, your hand right there with that ball. It's kind of like when you go to the when you go to the doctor and they try to check your equilibrium, right? And they tell you to put your finger right down your nose. And some people but you gotta put your finger right there on your nose. So, but handball is like all hand-eye coordination. But I think I would have been pretty good in baseball. I had the speed, good hand-eye coordination, but I chose track over baseball because track and baseball were spring sports. And, no, I wasn't doing like Dion yet. I wouldn't go run the 100 and then go right over there, put the uniform on, and then steal a couple of bases for the baseball team. But I just decided to go with track because I feel like track and football, they complemented one another. Football requires speed. Track is all about speed. So really, track is helping football. It's like track is mentoring football, football is mentoring track, and they're producing what you see now.
And I think your weight class and just the structure of your body type fit that what those activities, because that helped you to become greater at running fast, right? I mean, you were a cornerback, I believe, right?
Yep. Yep.
So just out of curiosity, how much did you wind up weighing for when you were in the NFL?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question too. You know, I went to the combines, and believe it or not, let me say this before I say what I'm about to say. I still weigh the same as I did when I was in college. How many
Wow.
people could say that? You know, but the suit that I got drafted in back in '95, I still can wear it. I still can wear it. But when I went to the combines, what they typically do, they get you up early in the morning, and before you eat, and they weigh you.
Mm.
That is when you are at your weight. So anybody out there listening, if you really want to know what your true weight is, weigh yourself in the mornings. Don't weigh yourself during the day after you've eaten breakfast, eaten lunch, eaten dinner, drink all those liquids. Weigh yourself soon as you get up in the morning. That is your weight. Then once you eat, you know, you probably put on about 10 pounds, 8 pounds just with food and liquid. So when I weighed in at 184, nothing with shorts on early in the morning. So when I would eat, then my weight would get up to like around 188, 189.
Wow. So you're a relatively big guy. I mean, that's a strong weight class. I remember, I wrestled 189, so I know that body type is very versatile. You have power, and you have ability to be flexible and stamina and a lot of speed too. So
Now, let me ask you that. Were you asking me my weight in high school or my weight
in NFL?
And then yeah. Because and in high school, I think I left high school weighing. Like maybe 170. My senior year, like maybe 178. 178 was what I weighed in high school.
You were only a few pounds shy of your optimal, weight class, right? Your NFL weight class. So that's good. Thank you, Tyrone. So what was the school that you went to again in college, and what was your college like?
Fort Valley State. And it's a story about Fort Valley State because a lot of people ask me, how did you end up at Fort Valley State? Which again, Fort Valley State is a HBCU located near Macon, Georgia, and which is middle Georgia. But Fort Valley State, it was very unique. Finances, again, here's this finance story. I'm sitting here talking to Dr. Finance, and all my life I've been dealing with finances, whether it was a shortage of it when I was growing up or going to a HBCU where still there is a shortage of finances. It's why those athletes really don't have an opportunity like the PWIs, predominantly white institutions, have better finances. But Fort Valley State, we didn't have the luxury of the things that would help an athlete maximize their ability. So I had to take and become creative. So during crucial times, during my stint at Fort Valley, I became more creative and more creative. I remember taking we had maybe 2 benches. Believe it or not, we had 2 benches, and one of them really wasn't conducive for laying down and doing a bench press. And then the other one, everybody else would try to use it. So, probably had about two or three good bars that you put weights on to lift. So we didn't have anything else. So I had to become creative. Sometimes I remember doing curls with a squat bar, and instead of having a curl bar, just being creative. So that helped me. It helped me mentally to basically develop the mentality that, just because I don't have it, don't mean that I can't produce it or I can't find a substitute. As the old saying goes, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. You just got to be open-minded, think outside the box. So Fort Valley, a great institution, all about family. The professors really were strict on education. So that was good. But at the same time, Fort Valley gave me the opportunity to be like an amoeba. like an amoeba. I was able to take the shape of whatever it was I was trying to do. I just had to be creative. And yeah, so I had a great experience in Fort Valley that I think really helped me to prolong my career in the NFL, because life is all about change. If you don't have the ability to adapt, if you don't have the ability to change, if you're stubborn, if you don't use your imagination, if you don't use your mind, the mindset, then you're going to come up short every time.
Were you involved with a lot of jobs, side jobs, whatnot, maybe entrepreneurship activity during growing up? Growing up, I'm sure you grew up poor like myself, and like just trying to find ways to make ends meet while you're trying to become a graduate and do all these other amazing things. Were there other jobs that you had going on at the same time?
Yeah, man, I remember. I don't know if the law is still the same, but you could get a work permit. I think I got my first work permit at 13 years old, 13 or 14 years old. Because legally, there's a certain age, I guess, but I got a work permit, and I would take these summer jobs. And whether it's cutting grass, you go with this particular company or whatever, you go down to the Social Security office, and then they assign you to a particular whatever company. And at the age of 14, I'm working with that company. I remember taking my little brown bag with me, or sometimes, once you start making money, they would stop off somewhere. Hey, we're going to stop at this restaurant, or we're going to stop at this little fast food place. And you go in and you get your food, have your lunch break for an hour, and then you back on it. So this would last from like 8 in the morning until like 3 or 4. So, I was very familiar with work and money. Now, whether I kept the money, that was a different story, because we were living from paycheck to paycheck. So I was doing my duty. Plus, I was the only child. There was other things. So you had my parents, my mom and dad, and then you just had me. So, but I learned a lot of stuff. And as they say, the school of hard knocks. So yes.
That's incredible. So can you tell us the story of when you actually first heard that you were going to be drafted for the NFL? How old were you at that point, and how did that work out?
Oh man, one thing, Dr. Finance, going back to high school, I quit football in high school.
Oh wow.
So I like to say this because this is for anybody out there who feel like you failed, faltered, you lost it, it's over. No, it's not over. It's not over, because the person that has the last say so is the person you look at every day in the mirror. It's not over until you say it's over. The thing is, you got to be like Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to fold. So basically, you just got to know how to play the hand that you dealt. But at the end of the day, you got control. So even though I quit football in high school, which was really a dumb thing, it wasn't like I just quit. It's just I didn't give the coach information about the fact that I was going to be late for practice. And when I got to practice, not having someone to mentor me, like we all have mentors now, I was basically making my own decisions, so to speak. And I made a decision once he blasted me for being late. I took it personal. I got all my boys laughing at me, everybody looking at me. And I'm like, hold on, my pride, my ego jumped up. So other situations, which is another point of life, we got to learn how to suppress our ego, because sometimes our ego will get us in trouble. And my ego got me in trouble that time. But anyways, it's not over. It's not over until you say it's over. But moving forward, I go into the draft and really didn't know that I was going to be drafted until maybe my end of my sophomore year, going into my junior year. I didn't know. Other than that, I was just playing the game because I loved it. Because I quit football in high school. When I went to Fort Valley, I just saw it as another opportunity to put on the pads, the helmet, whereas there were other guys that I played with in high school. Their senior year was the last time they ever put a helmet and shoulder pads on again. So it didn't really matter to me where I went. I knew that, praise be to God, I had a gift, I had talent, and I just wanted another opportunity to prove myself. And when I got the opportunity, I took advantage of it. And no matter what, I was like, I'm gonna work. And then my sophomore year, it started to manifest for me. But I also got to say this: I didn't play defensive back in high school. I was a running back. See, it's so much caveat in my story. It's like, you don't have to be really what you would be in the future. You are already it right now, right? But sometimes we don't recognize what we have until we go through a situation that exposes who we truly are. So that's why we should embrace opposition, because opposition reveals us to who we truly are. So I was a running back in high school, all my years in high school, 4 years. And then I get to Fort Valley and they want to switch me over to defensive back. So again, what did we say earlier, Dr. Finance? Change, adaptation. You got to adapt. So I adapted and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play this game. And that's why by my sophomore year, I started to get the hang of this. And then going into my junior year, I started to see scouts coming around. And then boom, after that, the rest is history.
Tyrone, I just want to get a couple quick facts real quick. So high school, you played football for all 4 years?
No, I didn't play football for all 4 years. I checked that. I played my freshman year, then I broke my ankle. So again, parents, if your kids get an injury, it's okay. They will mend, they will heal. I broke my ankle. My parents didn't let me go back out my sophomore year. The high school coaches saw my talent and they kept calling my parents, let him come back for sports. So my parents, okay, hey, he'll run track. So I ran track all 4 years in high school, but I played football my freshman and my junior year, all of my freshman year, all of my junior year. I broke my ankle my freshman year at the end of the last game. And my senior year, I only played half of the season, but I ran track all 4 years.
Yeah, so it's not like you quit in a traditional sense. Like, I walk out there one day and just leave. You actually had a track record, excuse the pun, 2.5 years really on football. And then when you got to college, did you play? You started sophomore year playing, or you started straight from the get-go?
Oh yeah, I started straight from the get-go, Dr. Finance. See, that's the other thing too. The caveat, man. I'm telling you my story, man. The Blind Side. They need to do a story about me. I'm like, they got a movie called The Blind Side. The guy who played the offensive tackle played with the Baltimore Ravens. But the beauty of my story is I started, yes, my freshman year, right? Never played defensive back, but I was talented enough to where I was more talented than everyone else. So my talent alone opened up the door for me. So I say that to say this: sometimes we in life, we are looking for the situation that we want instead of taking the situation that's best for where we are. So the situation for Fort Valley State, the situation playing defensive back, because of my skills, it allowed me, being a defensive back at Fort Valley State, it allowed me to nurture and grow to that which I already had in me, I believe. So, as you know, instead of going to the University of Georgia, to make an example, that, I guess, environment probably would have been too much for me, and I probably would have fizzled out. But Fort Valley allowed me to nourish my talents from the ground up. Whereas the University of Georgia, it might have been too much pressure. Okay, he's not getting it. He's too raw. Put him in another position. But Fort Valley allowed me to nurture and to grow. It's like a baby. Put that baby in the right environment, give it the right milk, the source of food, and let it grow. Or like a plant. So I was planted in the right soil, and I grew the way I was supposed to grow. And now I meet the same guys who were freshmen at Georgia. We meet at the senior year going into the NFL draft. And because Fort Valley allowed me to produce myself better, I was drafted ahead of them. So sometimes, you got to look at Don't look at the problem. Look at what you're trying to accomplish, and then plant your situation in the best soil possible, and you will grow, I believe, to what you're supposed to be. So whether it's mentally, spiritually, or physically, don't look at the problem. Look at your destiny and plant yourself in the right soil. Do everything you need to do to make that seed grow, and you'll get back to where you need to be. I believe that.
That's incredible, Tyrone. And I know we're doing your story here, but at the same time, like we're also dropping, you're dropping a lot of life lessons too while you're telling the story. That's incredible points you just made. So what happened after college? You just went straight to the NFL?
Yeah, got drafted by Carolina. I thought I was going to Detroit. So anybody watching this show, you live in Detroit. I almost became a Lion. They would pick it, I think, 17th. And I didn't go to Detroit because my agent, and I still don't know why, he didn't allow me to do an individual workout for the Detroit Lions, but they wanted an individual workout, just me and their scouts. But my agent said no. So I think they were kind of like, whatever. And they went with somebody else. But Carolina, they had drafted Kerry Collins at number 5. Okay. So they had the number 5 pick. I think they had the number 1 pick, but they traded down. They gave it to somebody else and traded down to number 5. That's where they took Kerry Collins. Then they had the 32nd pick in the first round. So when the 21st pick came up, the 22nd pick came up, they jumped up from 32. From 32, they traded 10 spots up to pick me at 22. Wow. So again, I'm telling you, Dr. Finance, I got so many like pearls of motivation. That's why I love to motivate people. That's why I love to tell people, it doesn't matter where you are in life, man. If you know who you are, what you have, and what you can do, man, you can fall down and you can get right back up. Companies do it all the time. They filed bankruptcy over here. It didn't work out. But you know what? The idea was never in the building. The idea was in the people. The gift was in the people. So all they did was file bankruptcy to cut off the creditors so they couldn't come and steal the seed. And they just went over to the other side of the street, closed the company A, B, and C, and reopened the company XYZ. Same people, same idea, just a different soil. So again, all that stuff that happened in the past, it's still, I still go through stuff and battling. That's life, but because of my past, I can always look behind me. I can always look back and say, hey, you know what? I've been here before. I've seen this party before. This is what I need to do. These are the principles. So yeah, man, went on and got drafted by Carolina. They moved up 10 spots, which was an honor. This kid from Fort Valley State, Division II now, Division II, and they said, this is the guy that we want to build our defense around. So, man, it's marvelous, man. Thank God.
Tyrone, I want to just pivot real quick to a question, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want, but I'm thinking there's so many people out there that would love to have been even a fraction of your position, just to be in NFL alone, let alone 2-time Super Bowl champion. That's just off the chart. I mean, you're in a league of your own. But people growing up in the street, poor, they don't know where their life is. So all they do is look at media and they look at sports and they look at their favorite sports player and say, I want to be like that. They have no idea what that means, but they want to, I want to be like that. Sure. I want to be in the NFL. And they go and they play sports and they think they're going to be in NFL and maybe they don't have the talent. They're living under false presumption. Can you just maybe paint a picture of what the financial situation is for people who get in positions, like say the average person, not you particularly, but the average NFL player that even has a career of 5 years or more? I know you had, I believe, 12 or 16 years, but what does the financial picture look like for them? Let's say you even made it to the highest, at the average level, not the highest, because we know they make tons of money, but the average like NFL player or sports player, are they making enough to pay the bills? And also talk about the point of how it's short term. Like you can't go beyond a certain age. After a certain age, you better look for something else, because we're talking about our physical bodies here. And after like 40 or 34 or something like that, the average person can't really sustain themselves in that industry without the competitors taking over them. So maybe your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll start with the last question first. With technology is allowing athletes and people, period. Just think about the regular human being. They have stem cells. They, all kinds of the mind. People still don't know everything they need to know about the body. The body's just so unique. And I believe today's athletes are going to play longer if they choose to. But most of them are getting paid that money is so really enormous. You got guys who today who get drafted in the 5th round, they're getting paid first round money that would have been going to a first rounder 10 years ago. That's just how television, these deals that these professional teams are making, they're enabling these athletes to make a real great living to where they could just play 3 years. They could just play 4 years, because really this is how it sets up as far as from a finance standpoint. But I do believe athletes can play as long as they want. Back in the day, it used to be, okay, hey, because of the magnitude of the punishment on the body, you're probably guaranteed maybe, I think, 3 to 5 years. But I think they were basing that off of certain positions, like a running back, because you make constant contact all the time. Yeah, maybe 3 to 5 years. But what about that long snapper? That long snapper can play. I've seen long snappers play for 20 years. So I think it's all predicated on what type of information and where you're getting it from. But with technology, athletes can play forever. And if you manage those first couple of years correctly, say if you are drafted in the 6th round, okay, you probably get maybe a 2-year deal, 2 year, maybe a 3 year with an option, maybe 2, 3. And that usually that rookie deal really is not going to be that much. But where athletes make their money is using the second contract. So all the women out there listening, you better jump on them guys now while they got their first contract. But no, seriously, guys make their money on the second contract. In the 3rd contract, usually you probably will get about 3 contracts. You got your rookie deal, and then you got your big money deal, and then you got pretty much that deal that's going to be like retirement, unless you one of those guys that is like one of the top guys on the team, and they come back to you asking you to renegotiate so that they can free up money. Cap for the team so they can have money to go out and get other players. So a la like most times the quarterbacks or maybe your top wide receiver and stuff like that, they go to those guys and they say, hey, let's redo your deal. So now they give that guy even more of his money. So instead of it being in contract form, it'll be in a bonus now. But it'll lower his salary, but it increase the guaranteed money that he gets from that deal. Spreading peanut butter on your bread. You just want to spread it so that it doesn't hurt the team as far as the cap. But there's money out there to be made. And the money situation, again, if guys play it correctly, they can play about 4 years and then retire and then use it to go in and do other things. But I think one of the keys that I've learned, marriage, child support, you just got to watch those potholes, man, and live below your means, so to speak. And even if you are making billions of dollars, even if you look at billionaires now, even though they have the money, you don't see them going out there buying and driving and dressing, like they trying to keep up with the Joneses, even though they know they have the ability. And they probably do have few nice cars and this and that and a wardrobe full of whatever, but they live below their means, but they know they can go up whatever they want to. So I think that's the other key as well. So hopefully that answered.
No, that was great, Tyrone. And I just got to add, being the finance guy, my whole view on retirement is that basically you should want to retire because you want to, not because you have to. That's retirement to me. Like I think, and I was a retirement specialist right out of college, worked for the largest investment company, moved $500 million before I was 24, talking to people all day long about this stuff. And, one thing I found was that people who retired, like 6 months later, they're not alive anymore. Because the typical definition of retirement is to sit on a beach or a fishing boat and just fish all day long for 6 months. I mean, eventually you're going to get bored, most people. So they lose their purpose. But to talk about money in retirement, I think there's a misconception. Most people think $1 million and you're rich. In today's economy with inflation, I'd say you need at least 10 million to live off the interest in somewhat comfort for the average person. So, what's your, like, what can you throw some like numbers around? Like how much would some of these average deals look like? I mean, maybe from a low end to the high end, what can they make for one contract? And we'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, every team has different structure, salary cap. You got some teams that they're like maybe $10 million over the cap. Some teams are $10 million underneath the cap. And what the cap is, it's like the minimum that the NFL says this team, not just NFL, but it could be professional basketball, hockey, Major League Soccer, whatever the sport is, there is a ground level. So when I say over the cap, ground level is where the NFL has established every team is given, say, $80 million for that season. Now,
Okay.
it may be a team that they have extra money. So they add that money to whatever the cap is that the NFL says they have established. So if a team has $10 million more, then now they are $10 million over the cap. If they don't have it, then now you're deducting from what their average is. So now you're $10 million under the cap. So that's when they got to cut players. They got to cut players just so they can get back up to where they can, go out and spend money to buy, to get players. But typically, again, depending on where you're drafted at, let's talk about the draft. Depending on where you're drafted at, the first round, of course, think of it like this. If you're first to buy something, you're probably going to have an opportunity to get more. If you come to the show last, you're probably going to end up getting the leftovers, and you're probably not going to have enough left to satisfy whatever you want. It's just like that when it comes to money in sports. First round picks, boom, we have money for them. So based off of the average of that first round pool of players, that's where the money gonna come from. So the higher you're drafted, the more money you get. The lower you're drafted, the less money you get. So that's basically how that thing plays. But they're also becoming wise, and they're having rookie caps. Rookie caps. This is another way teams are trying to save money. Rookie caps, like a first round, the top 10. The top 10 can only get this amount of money. So no matter where you're drafted at in the top 10, this is the amount of money that we can negotiate with you. So now this is where your agent has to come in, and your agent has to be very, very on their game. Okay, the team, they're gonna want to backload the contract, right? Because they want to save money, and they're betting to a point that you're not going to complete that contract. So they get to save money. The agent and the player, they want their money on the front end, because the thought is still the same. What if I don't complete this 5-year contract? Then right, at least I would have gotten over half of my money within the first 2 years. So that's why you got to have a good agent that knows what they're doing. Okay. And me personally, I've never been a player where I wanted my money to show up in incentives, because I've seen teams and I've heard of teams basically keep a player from reaching their incentives because they didn't want to pay them that bonus.
Wow.
Like that is a very true story. You ask any athlete, yes. I've seen where this guy needs about 900 more yards, 500 more yards. He's a running back, and they don't get a ball to him. Wow. They give it to him enough, but they don't give it to him enough to get that bonus.
Oof.
So, but it's like, think about Antonio Brown. There were bonuses that incentives in his contract that if he reached those incentives, he got an extra bonus. But then there are situations where you see guys getting upset because they're like, hey, I'm not getting the ball enough. I need to get the ball. I bet you somewhere in there's an incentive that they're trying to reach. And the team is like, okay, hey, it's a team sport. It's a team sport. Yeah, it's only a team sport when it comes to you paying my money. But yes, it's a lot of give and take, on that professional level, just like in business. Hey, they may cut your hours, so they pay you less. Maybe there's a bonus that you're supposed to get if the company receives a certain amount of finances or bills a certain amount of finances in a quarter, and you're heading and spearheading this project. All of a sudden, they take you off the project. Hold on, what's happening? This is that's just a way of the world when it comes to finances. So I don't know. Money, like the OJ say, money, 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 money. Anybody who remember the OJs now?
Well, this is really good stuff, Tyrone, because you're painting a different picture. You're showing the business side to the sporting industry, which most people don't consider. And just to clarify a couple of terms, because many people might not understand when you say round 1, round 2, 6, like what does that mean? What does the first round versus the 6th round mean?
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you for giving the opportunity to elaborate on that. Say like the NFL, they got 32 teams, right? They got 32 teams. Every time they go through those 32 teams, each team picks. They don't necessarily have to go through every 32 team, because sometimes there are, I should put it like this. There are 32 spots. Sometimes a team will have a first round pick, number 10, they have a 22, and they have a 29. Usually that's because they've done some type of negotiations with another team and took their spot. Maybe they gave up a player, and that team said, okay, we'll take your player and we'll give you our first round draft pick this year. So that's how teams end up with like maybe 2 or 3 first round picks. But typically there are 32 spots, 32 teams. Every time they go through those 32 spots, that's 1. They go through it again, that's 2. Go through it again, that's 3. So that's how they come up with the first round, second round, third round. And it used to be back in the day. I'm a historian, I love sports, and I love music too. So when I reference to the OJs, it's not that I'm that old, it's just I love music. I love music. I'm a connoisseur of music, food, and sports. But back in the day, they used to have 12 rounds. 12 rounds. How they came up with 12 rounds, who decided if we're going to do 12 rounds, I don't know. But they cut it down to 7 rounds. So every time they go through 32 spots, that's 1 round.
32 spots on a team or 32?
No, with 32 teams in the NFL. So I didn't want to say once they go through 32, the 32 teams, because like I said, a team could give up their first round pick. And one team can have 2 first round picks. So it's 32 spots because there are 32 teams in the NFL. So once they go through those 32 spots, then they go to the next round, which they start right back over. So whoever had the first pick in the first round, they're gonna have the first pick in the second round. So they keep that order until they go through all 7 rounds. And every year it changes. It changes the selection spots, but it's still 32 spots unless they add on another franchise, which I do believe the NFL eventually they will go to 34 teams. But they just pick in the city. I think Birmingham. I think they're looking at Birmingham. That's a pretty major metropolitan city, but they're looking always to expand, even internationally. They're playing games overseas in London. They're trying to build that brand. Again, it's all about show me the money. Everybody remember that Jerry Maguire?
Yeah.
Show me the money. But yeah, so 32 spots, and that draft order can change according to the previous year's standings. So like now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they were first because they had the worst record. Okay, so usually it's always the worst teams get the draft first, unless they trade with a good team, and that good team can be the second or the first selection. But normally that's how it goes about. Hopefully I explained that to a point where it was elementary to people, but usually that's how it goes. But yeah, so.
Okay. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate that. So what's like the cheapest, like what's the lowest ranked, let's say, player on a team, the average these days making? Like, I mean, the bottom scrub of the team, like what's the entrance gateway compensation they can probably expect? I would think maybe $500,000 a year or something like that.
Yeah, usually that title probably belongs to the those guys who are on the practice squad.
Okay.
Practice squad. Those guys normally make about don't quote me, but probably about $7,000 a week. Practice squad players. Practice squad players. I'm looking at it right now. Practice squad players, but I think they probably about 7,000, maybe 10,000, or maybe 3,000. But I guess you can see I never was a practice squad player. But, just like telling somebody from Beverly Hills,
yeah,
what is it like to live in Compton? I don't know. I think they have this. I think they have that. As this like to ask somebody who's lived in Compton, what is it like to live in Beverly Hills? I don't know. I don't know. So I know other practice squad players, but really what they make, but they always got information. I'm looking at it right now. Practice squad salary. There we go. Man, Google give you everything. Practice squad player makes $9,200 per week, wow, or $165,000 plus for 18 weeks. Okay, veteran players with over 2 years of experience can make $14,000 per week, or $252,000 for 18 weeks. Teams are allowed to pay a player a higher salary than the minimum, and this often happens if another team comes sniffing around the player. Meaning, if a player who's on the practice squad and a team says, hey, we want to sign your player from the practice squad to the active roster, which, man, that's a whole nother story in itself. But with the information I just gave you is based off of like a veteran, a first year practice squad player. They can make anywhere from $9,200 per week, which that's still a lot of doggone money per week, to $165,000 for the year. To a veteran, which usually a veteran is considered maybe 3 years or more, they can make $14,000 to $252,000 for 18 weeks.
Wow. When did they start getting into the millions, though?
Oh, that's when, again, if you're drafted high, let's see what that looks like. The salaries of first round draft picks, salaries of first round draft picks. Let's see what Google has to say. First round picks. Here we go. Man, Google is so fast. Okay, as a first round pick, Georgia's Travon Walker. Okay, let's talk about Travon Walker. He's the #1 overall pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. Travon Walker is set to sign a contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars worth around $41 million. His 4-year rookie deal includes a $24,360,000 signing bonus.
Wow.
That's $6.7 million more than last year's #1 draft pick, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson. So as you see, the money keeps coming in. The money keeps coming in. Man, we're in the wrong business, man.
I'm about to get in the NFL. I'm going to train with you.
I know, right? But see how that cap goes up?
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, he was the #1 pick overall last year. Okay. And Trayvon Walker is the #1 pick this year.
Right.
He's getting $6.7 million more than Trevor Lawrence.
Wow.
So that's when that $1 million start coming in the first round. First rounders, usually that was, millions. Second rounders too. But like I said, you got your rookie deal, and then you got that real big deal. So the money, and here's the great thing about Trayvon Walker. He got a 4-year deal. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm his agent, which I'm pretty sure his agent did this, the Jacksonville Jaguars probably want to sign Trayvon to a 5-year deal. That spreads that wealth out for the team. But Trayvon's agent probably said, no, we'll do a 4-year deal. Now, after 2 years, we want an option. Option means if he's playing well, we want to come back and renegotiate. So maybe we renegotiate for another 4 years. So now if that happens, if Trayvon is playing very well, he can actually not only make this 41 million, but man, he can make probably 40 more million. So, that's why it pays to do something that you love, and if you love it, people will pay you to do something that you have been doing all your life. And I'm pretty sure Trayvon has been playing football all his life, just like how we started this show off. We just love playing sports. And now he's getting paid to do something that he loves to do.
And that's just looking at it from the NFL perspective. Yes. We're not even talking about the sponsorships and the branding involved, where you can start putting your name on different things, doing commercials and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to make that 40 million look like chump change. Because if you invest it properly in yourself and in other things, like, you can really make that grow exponentially, right?
And the great thing too is, like, when, I don't know if you've seen, or anybody who's watching, if you have had the opportunity, the luxury to see Fast Times, the dynasty of the Lakers. I'm like, there is a lot of business in that show. And also it's a lot of, like, just understanding sometimes the stigma of being a professional athlete. But when I looked at it, Dr. Finance, I looked at it from a standpoint of business. And Dr. Jerry Buss, a lot of people don't know, man, he was way over his head, man, with the Lakers, to the point where he almost lost the Lakers. And he was like, I think he said, I can't quote myself, don't nobody quote me on this, but I think the first year that he bought the Lakers, he spent about $80 million. And still the Lakers was still like just the straw sticking out of the water, breathing. And because of his vision, and the other thing I liked about the series, Dr. Jerry Buss, again, from a financial standpoint, a life standpoint, he was a visionary, man. He was a visionary. I'm like, he saw things that were not there. So I'm saying this for a reason. Remember the term I just said, seeing things that are not there. And remind me if I forget to continue to elaborate on that. Seeing things that are not there. But he was a visionary. And the thing about being a person of vision, you can see where things are going, but you got to deal with reality. So he had to deal with where the NBA was, but he saw where he wanted his Lakers to be. And he knew he lived in Los Angeles, Hollywood. So I remember him saying this. He says he want people to experience the Lakers in 3 forms. He wanted them to experience basketball, but also experience the Emmys or the Oscars, as well as the Playboy Mansion. And if you look at athletes, you look at sports now, what it's about? It's about a little bit of all of that. People like to be entertained. And that's what he said. He wanted his team to be an entertaining team. That's why they call them Showtime. And but investing in things that basically are not there now, but will be in the future. Going back to Trayvon Walker, like you said, the endorsements. And with entrepreneurship at an all-time high, there's somebody out there right now who is a field knight, When Phil Knight, again, using this movie, Magic Johnson, the movie, I mean, Fast Times, the Dynasty of the Lakers, Magic Johnson had an opportunity to sign with Phil Knight, because Phil Knight came in. It was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and so of course it's about the Lakers, but they did talk about Bird, because Bird and Magic are like, left arm, right arm, left arm, and Phil Knight came to Magic and he wanted to sign Magic. He even had a shoe, the first ever like Nike basketball shoe that had Magic on the back of it. It had the swoosh and everything like that. And Magic looked at the shoe. He was like, "Word, my shoe, my name on it, word." But then Converse ended up, that's how we normally do. We normally go with the, I guess, the company that has already solidified themselves, and they got this person, that person, versus the startup. That's why I say entrepreneurship. There's somebody out there right now who is a Phil Knight. Your stock is 88 cents. But then during the show, they said if Magic had signed with Nike, Magic would have had earned to this date, I guess this date, $5.2 billion with Nike. But again, I say all that again to say, even where these people, anybody out there who's listening, where your company is doesn't mean that's where your company gonna stay. You got to put work in. You're gonna have some ups, you're gonna have some downs. But remember what I said earlier. Even if you have a downtime, even if you have to file bankruptcy, even if you have to go live in the house with your mama or your daddy or your parents again, to start back over fresh. Remember, the idea is never in the building. The idea is in you. So keep nourishing your idea. Put your idea in the right ground, just like I believe Phil Knight did. A lot of athletes probably turned Phil Knight down, but all it takes is that one time. Keep going that one time, and look at Nike now. So just like Under Armour, same thing. Under Armour tried to get into the game with Nike and Reebok and Adidas. And now I think Under Armour is probably the top grossing athletic paraphernalia over Nike. That's just me. But what I'm saying is, never discount yourself, no matter where you are. No, you don't look like the big boys now. Maybe you have fallen. You used to have millions of dollars or thousands of dollars coming in every week. Now you had to downsize. Remember. The idea is never in the building. The idea is in you. So take yourself, close off whatever you got to close off over here, so it don't come and try to steal, kill, and destroy. And take your stuff, your idea, and go across the street, reinvest, put it in better soil, and up through the ground come a bubbling crook. Isn't that the Beverly Hillbillies? They told them to move away from there. They said Hollywood or California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly.
You're dating yourself, Tyrone.
Hey, I just like look at all kinds of, I told you I'm a connoisseur. I look at all kinds of shows, man. I look at all kinds of shows. I'm like Sanford and Son. I'm like,
that was my favorite.
Yeah. So
but just to close real quick on this one point, now I want to get into the question, especially talk about your book. So you're a Clubhouse guy. I met you on Clubhouse. Grant Cardone had a stage one night, and he was interviewing Magic Johnson. He wasn't on Clubhouse. I think he was running it through his microphone. And the thing that really stuck with me the most, what Magic said, was that while everyone else at the end of the games were off and spending their money and doing nights on the town, he was actually hanging out with the owners. And I found that very interesting, because, man, that really shows how smart his mind is, because that's exactly what a true business person should be doing. That's in that, to be leveraging the amount of influence that you're now surrounded by and trying to learn more at a business level. So, I mean, closing thoughts on that before we get into your book and other things.
You know what? Here's how I put it in perspective like this. The student is only as good as the teacher. And the teacher is only as good as the experience that the teacher has been exposed to. Okay, that's one way to put it. So also hang out with teachers who have experienced what they're trying to do, or they can give me the great experience. The other thing is I've learned that if an owner is paying, say, Trayvon Walker, right? We talked about Trayvon, the defensive end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, #1 pick overall, went to the University of Georgia. If the Jaguars owner or ownership is paying him $41 million, how much must they be worth? So exactly. Yeah, so if I want to get wet, I got to go jump in the water, right? So if I want to advance my knowledge, I got to go hang out with people who are doing what I'm trying to do. So if I want to be an athlete, I need to go hang out with athletes, right? So if I want to be a teacher, I go hang out with teachers. If I want to be understanding finances, I need to go hang out with Dr. Finance, right? So there you go.
Brilliant, brilliant. Awesome, Tyrone. Thank you. All right, Tyrone. So we're going to go into our questions now and figure about a minute or two each, and we'll make good timing. First one, of course, is overview of your book or books. If you want to tell us about them and maybe even do show and tell, you got an incredible background over there. And it's not fake, folks. We already proved this in the beginning. He can actually reach behind him and touch one of those footballs. What? That's not a green screen. Okay. Look at that.
There you go. That's you guys can see that. That's I don't know, it's kind of still glossy. Yeah. This is the actual replica of our Super Bowl 39 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is the actual replica of the trophy.
Wait a minute, you played on the team that beat the Eagles? I didn't know that. I didn't know which team you beat.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw that in your face.
Oh.
Yeah. And, that Super Bowl that the Eagles won recently against the Patriots.
Yeah.
We gave y'all that.
No wonder you were saying that the other day. I'm like, what?
This one here, this is against my team that brought me into the NFL, believe it or not. Ironically, playing against the Carolina Panthers, which Jerry, at the time, the owner, says that he has a 10-year plan in 1995. His first team meeting with us, Dr. Finance, he says, I got a 10-year plan to get the Carolina Panthers into the Super Bowl. We end up playing Carolina in 2003, which was the 2004 Super Bowl.
Wow.
So I wasn't on the team, but I was in that very first meeting. And Jerry Richardson and I, at the beginning of the game, shook hands and congratulated each other. And I saw some of my old teammates and coaches. So yeah, man, how ironic is that, man? So I'm playing against a team that almost 10 years ago, the very owner who I'm shaking hands with, even though I'm on the Patriots now, said that he had a vision to get the Panthers into the Super Bowl 10 years from 1995. So I'm like, wow, man, he was almost spot on. So yeah.
Almost spot on. Hey, but listen, you get in there, it's still a great milestone. So yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. While you're at it, we're talking about your books here, but if you want to show your book and as well as any other thing on your showcase as well.
My book, you guys can see it right here over my left shoulder. But this book, Ultimate Success in the Game of Life, little about this book. We named it Ultimate Success in the Game of Life so that it lent itself to multiple branding. Ultimate success in the game of recovery, ultimate success in the game of relationships, ultimate success in the game of restoring finances. Again, the title lends itself to so many things. And the reason why we call it ultimate, because if you just say success, then success is relevant. Success can mean anything. But when you tag a descriptive word to it, now you're basically saying there's only one type. Bring me a chair or bring me the chair. Now you're making it definite. So ultimate success in the game of life, there's only one ultimate success. But this book, impactful book, very short read. We came up with that idea as well because people are on the move these days. People don't like to really read biographies anymore. They want a very quick, impactful, knowledgeable, inspiring, motivating read. So this book is powerful, short read, has 12 dynamic principles, 12 dynamic principles that will shape your life. And you know how I know it will shape your life? Because it shaped my life. The principles in these books is there are things that I have not heard about. I experienced these things, okay? I didn't go to YouTube and listen to somebody else say, hey, 10 ways to do this. And then I changed it up and say, hey, I'm gonna tell them 11 ways to do it. No, this is what I experienced in this book. And they're principles. And the thing about principles, they work for anybody if you work it. It's my experience with the principle, just to show you that it works. The principle. How to depend on yourself, okay? How many of you have a philosophy for your life? You gotta have a philosophy for your life. You gotta know where you're going. How many of you know that your words impact your success? Yes, yes. What you say to yourself will determine whether or not you win or you lose, okay? How to rise above the level of defeat. A lot of people get knocked down, but they don't know how to get back up. And always raising the bar of learning. Every stage of success you go to, okay, you got to learn again. You can't be afraid to be a sophomore again. You know, you look at any of the great people, even Dr. Finance, I'm pretty sure you educate yourself every day. Every day you're learning.
Absolutely.
That's why you're giving people wisdom. So yeah, this is a great book. This book can be found on TyronePoole38.com. And it can be found on any book platform that sells books. But this is why I tell people to go to my website, Dr. Finance, because just like what you're doing, and I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. You're giving me the opportunity to help people. This book is giving people opportunity to help themselves. So when you buy it from me, not only does it come signed personally, but you allow me to gain 100% of the proceeds to be able to go out and help other people. Now, when you buy from the bookstores, because of my deal with the publishing company, they get majority of it. But when you buy straight from the author gets 100% of it. Now I'm able to go and produce another book or add it to whatever I'm helping people in the community. So that's why I say go to my website. And not only do you get it personally signed, but you get an opportunity to give me an opportunity to help people maximize people's lives.
No, that I commend you on that, Tyrone, because that's actually a lot of work to do that, to personally sign it, and then you got to put it into the FedEx or UPS, envelope and ship it out individually, one by one. I mean, I've stopped doing it. Maybe I'll start it again because it's a lot of work. So I give you credit for that, man. That's great. Well, thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate that. When was that book published?
Yes, it's called Ultimate Success in the Game of Life. From too small and too inexperienced to 2 Super Bowl rings. Now, again, too small. How many of you out there that's saying your company is too small? How many of you out there that's saying, oh, you're too inexperienced, you don't know enough yet? But you know what you know because you know yourself. So this book, again, principles. Now, when it says too small and too inexperienced, that wasn't talking about my hype, people. It was, again, coming from a Black college. Okay. Oh, the school is too small. Oh, the players that come from HBCUs, they're too inexperienced. So I shattered all of that to let people know I broke that glass. I took the hammer and I swung it. And I broke that glass and I said, you see, all I need is an opportunity. All you guys need is an opportunity. So this book, hopefully, will help you realize that lion that you have inside of you.
Love it.
Eat.
What was the publication date on it, though? When did you publish it?
Oh, see, that's a great thing, too. This book, the principles are timeless. They are timeless. They never go out of style. This book, I wrote it back in, I think of maybe 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you know what? The sun has been coming up and going down for years and years and years. And the principles are still the same. When the sun comes up, it's light. When the sun goes down, it's darkness. So principles in this book are timeless, timeless. I'm telling you, this is a piece of artifact here. Not only is the knowledge in this thing great, Dr. Finance, but when I sign it, this is a big trading card. Big trading card.
That's a good point.
Yes. So
for you,
there you go. It'll never be another ultimate success in the game of life book written by another Tyrone Poole. So, hopefully, one day, just like an artist, when my time is done on this earth, that's usually when artists become more valuable. Boom, I got his signature. This is his signature. So yeah, not only am I feeding you here, but hopefully I'll feed you in your wallet later on.
I love it. All right, Tyrone, before we get to the next question, I think it's a good show and tell opportunity. Can you show the audience with what 2 Super Bowl rings look like?
Oh man, you know what? Oh,
I know I hit you in the last minute.
Yeah, I don't have them with me. Man, but I got them. I normally have them like locked up. They're in the casing.
Okay.
But I do have it. You know what?
I can pause it if you want.
I'm actually gonna text someone and tell them to bring it downstairs. So I don't know if you want to ad lib while I send this message.
I'm gonna pause it real quick. All right, folks. I think we have a surprise. We paused it for a moment, and let's see what Tyrone came up with.
Yeah. Hey, you guys have seen the Super Bowl trophies. You've seen the 2 Super Bowl trophies. But now get ready for the most ultimate prize that every professional athlete wants to obtain. I've heard athletes say, professional Hall of Famers, football Hall of Famers, they say they would trade in their Hall of Fame ring for these 2 things right here. Super Bowl ring. So that one there, you guys can see it. That one, just got a little bit of.
Yeah, there you go, right there.
Yeah, it's good. This one, if you guys can see it, let it kind of focus a little bit. All that bling bling, it can't really focus to a point. But yeah, this one is Super Bowl 39. This is the Philadelphia Eagles. We beat the Eagles. This one here. This one is Super Bowl 38. Super Bowl 38.
Is that all diamonds?
Yes, all diamonds. And here's the story. These things get bigger and bigger every year, man. Every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the value goes up. Super Bowl 39 ring right here that I have with the Patriots. It's like, I think it's like 30 something Bassett, however they say it. But it's like diamonds and Bassets, whatever they call them. But I'm gonna give you guys another little trick, a little bit of knowledge here. I don't know if you can see, maybe I can get it a little bit close. There, maybe a little bit better. You guys see the 2 big diamonds right there?
Yeah.
That represents the number of Super Bowls that team has won. So you saw 2 in that one. You see 3, if you can see it, but I'm thinking bling blinging, man, you can't even really see it. But,
yeah, it's hard to see.
2 and 3.
Wow.
Those are the big diamonds. What they represent are the number of championships that team has won in its history. So the Patriots, when they won the 6th Super Bowl, they had 6 big diamonds in that ring. So, man, some of these diamonds are probably bigger than most women probably have on their ring finger, But yeah, so here are my 2 Super Bowl rings.
Can you put them on, Tyrone, so we see what it looks like?
Oh,
just in perspective.
I had gotten this one. This one was for when we first get them. Wow. They ask us which hand we want to finger. So I got mine, for this finger. At the time I was married, so I I didn't get it for this finger, which still same finger. And then when we won the second one, I said, man, where am I going to put this one? So I said, you know what? I'm going to put it on my index finger. So they measured my index finger. So that's 2 Super Bowls alone, how it fits. Now just think, they've won 6. So really, you can't even close your hands up. You can't, that's why their hands be like wide open when they are showing the rings off. But yeah, so these are my 2 of the 6. And these are back to back.
What happens if you won 11? I mean, you'd be putting it on your toes.
I know. You have to use somebody else's hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, come on, I'm gonna hire you to walk with me and just use your hand to show off my other rings, my other 11 rings. But yeah, man. So that's it. These are my 2 Super Bowl championship rings, and I don't wear them everywhere. They're just too gaudy. They're too gaudy. And I'm like, but I gotta say this: if I ever go somewhere and there are other NFL players around, I will wear them, because everybody haven't had opportunity and the luxury to win this. Cincinnati had an opportunity, but man, they came up short. And also, when I go to a restaurant or I go somewhere and we didn't make reservations, I walk up, I say, excuse me, sir, can I speak with the manager? Then the manager come in and I say, sir, I apologize, but I know you guys are, packed tonight, but if you could some kind of way, could you allow us an opportunity? So I'm putting a ring in front of him. So he's like, yeah, sure, hold on. Let me see what we can do.
That's so funny. Those rings got to be worth probably $500,000 each, something like that, right? Or what do you think?
I don't know. You know what? I really don't know what the value of it is right now. But of course, the value goes up over the years. Let's see. Let's see what the value of the first Super Bowl ring is.
Oh, wow.
First Super Bowl ring. Let's see what that is. Man, like I said, Google is so awesome. Super Bowl ring. Let's see. Value first. It says, check this out. ESPN says the rings cost $36,500 and were the most expensive ever produced by was it Jostens? That's who makes the rings.
But that's not based on inflation. That was probably the original cost, like 50 years ago or something, or 100 years. Whatever.
Actually, this is not what I'm looking for anyway. So I wanted to get the first the value of the first Super Bowl ring, but they're talking about the Patriots and everything like that, Robert Kraft and everything like that. So maybe Google saw I was showing off my Patriots Super Bowl rings, but I was trying to figure out what is the price of the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl ring, first ever ring, because that was the first ever ring.
Let me see if I can look it up.
Yeah,
that's a good question though. Just curious. Oh, whoa. Team owner Robert Kraft bought 150 rings totaling $5.475 million. Oh, yeah. I'm reading what you read.
Yeah. The value of the first Super Bowl ring, Green Bay Packers. So I see some information here, but I really don't know if it's actually accurate or not. How much is a Super Bowl ring worth? Let's see what they say here about that. Talk about finances here, right? Man, it could be, let's see. When an NFL team does win the Super Bowl, it is immediately handed. And plus, I'm gonna be giving some people some information about financially how these rings are actually, the money that goes into it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. When an NFL team does win a Super Bowl, it's immediately handed the Lombardi Trophy, which I just showed you, which mine is a replica, mm-hmm. signifying championship status in one of the most prestigious professional sports leagues in the world. For the record, the Lombardi Trophy. So the Patriots got 6 of them, right? The Steelers got 5, the 49ers organization got 5. For the record, the Lombardi Trophy costs $50,000 to make. They say $50,000 to make. And usually it sits in the team's owner's office, although each team member gets a replica, a la my replicas, worth $1,400. So, but over time, that thing has to get, increase in value.
Oh yeah, it's rare. I mean, think about it. How many rings were handed out during each season? About, you said 150 rings, something like that.
Well, actually, it's like the team each year is like it's 53 men on the roster. All 53 men on the active roster. I think it's 53. The CBA, which is collective bargaining agreement. The NFL and the players, the owners and the players just signed a new CBA. So I think they increased the active roster, but I think it's 53. So 53 men on that roster actively every Sunday, they get a ring. I believe the practice squad players get a ring, I believe. But only 53 men will get that championship ring, okay? And here's a little bit of fact right here. Here's some facts. I believe facts. Talking about Lawrence Taylor, okay? For example, a ring that belonged to Hall of Fame player Lawrence Taylor sold for over $230,000. So I don't know what that means. I would believe that depending on the name of the player on the ring would probably increase the value. I'm pretty sure Tom Brady sold one of his rings. Man, that ring probably worth $230,000 right now alone.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's incredible. It's so interesting. And the reason we're talking about this too, because it's so odd. There's not that many in history. I mean, how many Super Bowls they up to now? Like 50 or 70 or something?
Yeah, we think about like going to 56, 57, somewhere in there. And 56. Then on top of that, Dr. Finance, when you think about the number of teams in the NFL and how many teams have actually won those Super Bowls, you got the Steelers. They don't won a lot of Super Bowls. The 49ers, that's 10 right there. The Patriots, that's 16 right there. You sprinkle in teams that have won back-to-back. You talk about the Broncos. You talk about the Green Bay Packers. That's what, 20. So really, you got only 30 more. But it's, again, spread it out. Some teams have won it twice, so it's not too many players that have won Super Bowl championships. But everybody wants a championship.
Just doing some quick math. Let's go with ESPN's number. Let's say they gave 150 rings out, because there are other people that get it too, besides the exact team players. 150 rings, 56 seasons. That's 8,400 rings. But like you were trying to say, like, you have 2 rings, right? So if you built yourself in that equation, and then you got Tom Brady, who's got, how many rings? Like, some people have more than 1 ring. I mean, you're really down to like 7,000 people or something like that in history. That's not a lot. So that makes it out of how many like NFL players in history, right? So it makes you part of the elite of the elite. I mean, it just goes to add more credence to how special what you've done is. Like, to have 2 is just, it's incredible.
Yeah, and that's why I think Dan Marino, former quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Went to the Super Bowl his rookie year, never went back. But if you ask Dan if he had an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl and win it, definitely he would say yes. And he probably thought, hey, I got here my rookie year. You know what? I know I'm going to play for at least about 5-10 more years. I get another opportunity. Never saw the Super Bowls, not just the Super Bowl, but he didn't really get into the playoffs.
Wow.
So kind of like Jim Moore, playoffs. Just hoping we can win another game.
Thank you, Tyrone. I appreciate the diversion. I think this is definitely a real cool part of this show. I mean, just to see that, I think a lot of people will like that alone. So that's really cool. And the discussion of money and all that, because this is something people watch football religiously, but they never think about this stuff that we talked about on this show so far. Like, they never get to see the behind the scenes view of it, which you've been exposed to, which is really cool. The money side of it.
Yeah.
So thanks, Tyrone. All right, next question. Let's figure about a minute to two each question. I want to go back to you quitting high school football, okay? Because this is really interesting, and I really think we can. So, folks, if you want to, we already locked in today. Tyrone is going to be on Clubhouse as my main guest speaker June 3rd, and he's going to come on between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be super cool. And so far, I got some ideas of how to title that room, and I think one of them might be around how, because Napoleon Hill, who wrote the greatest self-help book of all time, Think and Grow Rich, one of his lines was about how winners never quit. But this is a great discussion because you did quit high school football, but that was a short-term quit, and you became a Super Bowl champion twice. So there's something to this story I want to abstract for people. Like, you know, going back to let's to break this into two questions. What effect did quitting high school football have on your career? And the second one, can winners be quitters?
Yeah. And again, answering that first question, last question first, I do believe that quitters can become winners again. You're already a winner. You just actually went through a season, but maybe you didn't make the best decision. Okay. So that's why I've learned that my situation or other people's perception is not my reality. Okay. Is what I believe. Now, going back, I want to let people know why I quit football. Again, we all gonna make dumb decisions, uncalculated decisions. You know, some of us have invested in things that we're like, whoa, looking back at it now, hindsight being 2020, we got better wisdom, you know, and it wasn't that we maliciously did something. We just, sometimes we don't have enough knowledge. And back then, when I quit football, I didn't have enough knowledge. Actually, I ended up coming to practice late because I had to stay after. My teacher made me stay after to like retake a test. And it was the sixth period, the final period. We had 6 periods back in high school. And, you know, lunch was a period. That was my favorite period, you know, lunch period. But the sixth period, I'm in a class and the teacher, you know, I didn't have none of my other teammates in there. And again, I'm grateful for this teacher because that showed me that the teacher knew I was an athlete, but education was first. Okay, so I had to, you know, retake a test, do some paperwork. So now I'm coming to practice late, you know, and I don't know about you guys out there, but the worst thing, Dr. Finance, is to come to a meeting or come to a situation where you are the last one to walk in, everything is flowing, and then everybody stops and look at you. Now, all eyes are on you. So that's how it was with me. I did not tell my coach that I had to stay after. I'm pretty sure if I had told him, he would say, okay, cool, come in, practice, boom, boom, boom. So I did not tell him. So I ended up coming to practice late and I walk onto the field and I was a senior. So I'm at the front of the line leading the calisthenics, leading warm-ups. So the coach came over, he stopped practice, and that's when he really got into me. Now, at the time, being a young man, just like some of the youth today, they think when people get on them that they don't like them. So that's how I took it. I'm like, why are you getting on me? I'm like, so I took it personal. My pride got bigger. And then I started making, you know, bad decisions and said a few things and threw my helmet down, walked off the field. And we were so talented back then that even our third string running back, and I played running back in high school, our third string running back could go and start for another high school and probably do doggone good. So the coach was like, okay, hey, you gonna leave? Leave. But my teammates, you know, they were trying to get me to come back after the fact. And my pride was just to the point, no, man, he tried to embarrass me, man, and man, forget him. I wasn't thinking. So I made a permanent decision in a temporary situation. It was a temporary situation. Just say, I'm sorry, Tyrone. Say, hey, coach, my fault. But I made that permanent decision by saying I quit, thinking I'm hurting him, but I'm hurting myself. But thank God I knew who I was. what I had, and my talent was something that the coach could not take from me. Yes, he could tell me to turn my equipment in, take my helmet, take my shoulder pads, but he couldn't take my gift. So as soon as I came to myself, understanding who I was, what I had, and what I could do, bam, put the train back on the track, and let's get to our destination.
Mm. That is beautiful. I really like that. That's such a metaphor for not just business, but life in general. So thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate that. Do we need to keep changing, evolving?
Yes, definitely. Change is a part of life. There are two things, people, two things we cannot change. How should I say? We can't stop, okay? Because one of them, I just used the word. But the two things we cannot stop or we can't do nothing about it, we can't stop it. It's time. We know we can't stop time. Change, you can't stop change. You just got to learn how to adapt to change. And that's where I think a lot of people, Dr. Finance, they either make it or they break it. How they say they come to the fork of the road, and now you got to make that left or that right, or the crosshairs, or that line that you cross, that point of no return. Change is that point of no return. If you don't adapt to change the proper way, now you're not going to adapt to change 100% of what you will be in the future, but you got to adapt to change at that moment to keep everything moving. And I think change is a very big part of life. And I think that is one thing that causes us not to maximize our life. And we start taking alternate routes, thinking that is the right route. Whereas if we had just got with the right people such as yourself, your show, what you're doing, not only live, but also on Clubhouse, people getting information and making the proper changes. And now they're able to adapt and hold off. And I like to use change like pressure. The reason why when you squeeze a Coke can or whatever drink, a bottle, plastic water, the reason why you can't like pop it, you can't like just crush it, is because the pressure on the inside is matching the pressure that's coming from the outside. But if you were to pour all that water out, and you actually squeeze it, there's more pressure on the outside now, and that's why you're able to squeeze it. So change is like that. If you can match the proper change on the inside to the proper change on the outside, usually that's your attitude, how you look at it, how you think about it, then you will be able to match the pressure that other people crumble up under.
Wow, that is, I really dig that. I like that a lot.
We dig it deep in that one right there.
That's great. Thank you, Tyrone. All right. So let's talk about, I want to pivot, talk about you personally, but also in general at the same time. The typical sports player, right? They hit their career point. They're out of, their physical condition is not like it used to be. And they're getting outranked by younger people taking their place. So they got to find a different way to make a living. And hopefully they made enough money at that point in their life to justify usually leaving 30s or 40s, 40-year-old and trying to find a different career path. What was your journey like? And the question I have for you specifically is, how did you get into speaking? How did you get into this whole other world? What made you want to go into this and after you retired from the NFL? And is it commonplace for people like yourself? Is everyone who retires from football, is this what they do next? Or
I think it's a variety of opportunities for anybody, but particularly athletes, because they have a brand, and sometimes they will teach you how to do something if you're marketable. I think, this is how I look at it. When you get ready to transition, and this is not just for sports. Again, I like to, I talk in parables, I use stories, but please listen to the story, but extract the principle. Extract the principle. Listen for the principle. Your job, there's a difference between your job and your work. The reason why some people are able to transition and go from their job where they were happy and go on and live happier life after their job is because they have learned, and this is what I think I've learned. Football was my job. It wasn't my work. It wasn't my work. A job is something that people teach you, show you how to do it, and then they can take it away from you, give it to somebody else. But your work, that is that which I think everybody's trying to pursue. Everybody's trying to find out, what and why am I here on this earth? My work. I want to discover my work. And when you discover your work outlives your job. Your work is never done until you take your last breath on this earth. So when you can just discover your work, your transition from your job is easier. Most people, they never know what their work is. So when their job days are over, they're like, okay, where do we go from here? It's kind of like the Forrest Gump movie. You know, Forrest just said he was just running. Then he said, he stopped. He said, well, I think I'll go home now. Everybody like, what do you mean you going home? Where do we go? That's kind of like a job and your work. If they knew what their work was, they would say, okay, hey, you go ahead and leave. We're going to continue this. So I knew my work. And again, I think it comes up from like being in my family. And believe it or not, Dr. Finance and everybody who's watching, I used to be quiet. I used to be quiet. I'm like, you probably couldn't get 2 words out of me. But man, look at me now. It's like, man, look here, Tyrone talk for 2 minutes. Well, he's been talking for 6 minutes now. But again, your job and your work. When you can establish your work, then when you transition, it makes it easier because your work was tied in your job. But now you've separated and your work is you. You separated yourself from your job, but your work is you. You can never separate yourself from your work. So now you go and you align yourself with something that allows your work to continue to manifest itself. So I think that's how the great ones do it. They make that transition. They know their work.
How did you get into speaking though? Did someone tell you, listen, you know, you should probably think about this? Or
yeah, you know, I wish I would have been taught. I wish I could have talked like this when I was playing, because I really didn't talk to reporters that much. Man, I probably could have been whatever, because I do believe reporters can make you and they can break you. But I had an okay relationship. I wish I could have had a greater relationship just by talking. But I think I think it really came to I guess reality. The maturity of me speaking came during my time in church service. You know, the pastor, you know, he would say, hey, you know, we're doing this function, and, you know, started me off with a little bit of announcement, you know, hey, just get up and read this card right here. And then, you know, I got up in front of everybody and I read the card, and then I started saying, yeah, I'm like, hold on, I like this right here. You know, it's kind of like football. It's like when they call my name and, you know, hey, it makes me want to do more. So I'm like, I like that feeling. And I like the fact that, you know what, people are listening. They're listening. So you have an opportunity to impart knowledge, wisdom. So I'm like, okay, hey, this is an opportunity for me to be able to help people. And I know my work. I feel like I'm here to help people overcome life's issues. And I believe we all will experience life issues, some type of test, some type of trial. Everybody has a different experience, just like with you, Dr. Finance. You had like when you were coming up, you mentioned that earlier, how you came up. And now your experience where you are now, when you look back, you see so many golden nuggets in how you can help other people transition. Now, those people that you help may not be the people that come down my road of help. But at the end of the day, you, myself, anybody who's watching this show that I call is a role model. A role model is anyone who, when people look at you, you make them want to be better, feel better, just whatever better. You are a role model, my friend.
Thank you.
Everything that we say influences those people. So at the end of the day, our job, whether it's you, me, or anybody, our job is to use our experiences in life that we were successful in. And even if we failed in it or failing in it, we can learn from it. And it's our job to study it, cultivate it, and then serve it back to those who have ears to hear so that they would not have to repeat that which we have overcome.
That's brilliant, Tyrone. By the way, right back at you. You're a testimony to what it takes to be a great champion. So I'm looking up to you, and I'm the student today. So I'm learning from you. I appreciate that. Just the next question to follow up on that, just to be clear, is a speaking career normal for retired football sports players? I mean, it seems to me like the average sports player wouldn't take the path that you took. Like they would just go retire or do something else. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're right. It's not for everybody. Just like football is not for everybody. Professional sports is not for everybody. Doing what you do is not for everybody. It takes a special type of passion, special type of gift. So most athletes, they don't go into speaking because still, believe it or not, that's probably one of the biggest fears, even of adults, is to be in front of other people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's one of the biggest fears in the world. They did a Princeton study. I learned this in college a long time, a few years ago. I don't want to date myself. They said the Princeton review that one of the biggest fears in life, more than death itself, was public speaking. So it's pretty wild to do that.
And then I even give this tip for anyone who may be fearful that wants to speak. But to answer your question again, I don't think it's common. I think it takes a special gift. And sometimes people can be trained. They want to do it, but they just don't know how. So what I'm about to say can hopefully help those who want to be a speaker. But you're like, you know what? I just get afraid. I just my palms start sweating. I get nervous. And when I'm sitting in my seat and my voice is normal. And then when they call me on stage and I get on the stage, I say, hello, my name. So if you want to get rid of those nerves, one thing I'll say that I do sometimes, because I do get nervous, just like in football. I got nervous. My first game I ever played, I got nervous. My last game that I played, and I played like, if you take and multiply about 60 to 65 snaps a game times about 13 years, okay, and times, but 16 games at the time I was playing, that's 17. That is over 12,000 some odd plays. I made 13,000 plays. I got just as nervous from the first to the last. If you're not nervous, as they say, you're not living, you're not passionate about it. So when it came to speaking, I get nervous just the first time as now. But what I learned to do is my voice. I know when we first came on, Dr. Finance, you like, I got to get my tea to, drink. And a lot of singers do that. A lot of speakers do that. What I do sometimes when I don't have a tea around, I'll hum my favorite tune. Even when I'm standing up and they're about to introduce me, I'm like, So what I'm doing, I'm warming up my vocal cords. So when I open up my mouth, it's like my voice is at its normal octave, And also what I've done, I learned this from my college coach. If you're afraid to look at people in their eyes, just stare at their forehead. Or if you're looking at a crowd, stare at the back wall. Now, why would you stare at the back wall? Here's why I say that. Have you ever seen a picture, a painting, and you move to the right, You move to the left. Hold on. Those eyes are following me. No, them eyes are not. They're not following you. They're fixated in an area where your focus is. So if you're afraid to look at people in their eyes, look at something around them. That's why I say look at the forehead. Because when you look at the forehead, it looks like you're looking right in their eyes. Or if you're looking at a crowd, you're in a crowded room, look at the wall. Turn your head to the left, to the right, but look at the wall. And it'll make it look like you're looking at them. So that's how I kind of got over, my nerves. And I built up enough strength to where I could look somebody in their eyes and say, hey, hold on, you're not paying attention. Why are you not watching me?
That's amazing. And the fact that the story you told me earlier, like that told us earlier, that you didn't really talk much until you retired. And that was only about 10 plus years ago. So, I mean, that's to come from that in a span of about 10 years to where you're at right now on Clubhouse and all these speeches. So that's incredible. One last point before we move to the next question is that, we also, like, this whole conversation is based on a normal person, but you're extraordinary, right? Like, to be in these stadiums with people, I mean, what, 30,000 plus people? Yes, you're not speaking, but you're in front of 30,000 people that are all watching you, which is crazy. It's not like Clubhouse, you go 1,000, 2,000, maybe 5,000, like, what was that the same type of, wouldn't that have helped you get over the fear of speaking because you're already exposed to crowds, or is it totally different?
Yeah, and I'll say this too. You use the word extraordinary. I use that same word. I say it like, well, I got a statement that I use that I learned from someone else. Wise person surrounds himself with wise counsel, right? Conflict. He was talking about conflict. He says, when extraordinary has a conversation with ordinary, there will always be conflict. So I added to that. So not only when extraordinary has a conversation with ordinary, there will be conflict, but what ordinary fails to realize is that extraordinary used to be ordinary. They just made up their mind, I do not like where I am and I want to be better. Then that's when they became extraordinary. So, but no, going back to the crowd, like you said, 70, 60 some thousand people. And sometimes, depending on what type of game you have, Tyrone, you suck. You suck. It ain't always good, Dr. Finance, but you got to learn how to, like I was told also, another words of wisdom, conflict, when people talking about you. Number one, their perception is never your reality. That's their opinion, and I don't care about your opinion. But when they do speak, let it be like water on a duck's back. You guys ever seen water hit a duck back? What it does? It beads up and rolls right on off. So 70,000 people, 60,000, sometimes they can be for you and sometimes they can be against you. So, but yeah, like you said, being in front of 70,000 people, I learned how to identify and block them out. Just like I gave those little 2 pointers about how to block out certain things that bog down other people. There are some athletes, they can't handle people booing them because they want to please everybody. And but I'm like, you know what? I'm here to help whoever wants to be helped. I'm not here for everybody. I understand that. I've accepted that. But yeah, so 70,000 people did prepare me for moving forward to be able to speak, along with like you giving me an opportunity. Right now, you're giving me an opportunity to perfect my craft. I listen to you. Sometimes I listen to myself as I'm talking. I'm like, Tyrone, don't get too passionate. Too passionate. Because if I get too passionate, man, I become like a live wire with no insulation. I'm like hot, babe. I'm like, you ever touch 2 wires and it had no insulation? You're like, whoo, that thing is hot. So like sometimes I get so passionate, man, that it just starts flowing and I gotta like, close the gates every once in a while, slow my pace down. All right, come back down to reality so they can understand you. You're giving great information, but slow it down or repeat it again. I think you went too fast on it. So But yeah, so you're giving me the opportunity here, Dr. Finance, to work on my skills.
Thank you, Tyrone. And you get to be on a podcast with many, many greats. So, honored to have you here. And, as they say in martial arts, I talked about this. I was martial artist many years. Steel sharpens steel. So we're actually making ourselves better right now. So it's a two-way street. Thank you, Tyrone. Next question, maybe 30 seconds. Should you cut team members who are go takers, people who take, they never give?
Yeah, I've learned that, how should I say, depending on what their role is, because sometimes you got takers who are very important. Your gas in your house is a taker. The gas company is a taker, but the gas company is also giving you an opportunity to warm your house. So you just got to know how to manage it. I'm going to turn my heat on here, but I'm going to turn it off there. So if you got teammates who are takers, you just got to know how to implement them. Okay, I'm going to let you be you over here. You can take over here, but I'm not going to allow you over here where you're taking could be devastating to the team. So I think it's all about how you manage and utilize that person.
That is a brilliant response. I mean, the average response could have been something like, no, get rid of them. But you had a great way to look at that, which I believe, I agree with you. Sometimes you got to dance with the devil a little bit if it's good, if that means it's good for the greater whole of the team. It's just the reality of nature. There are going to be things in nature, not just people, that we need, resources that we need. And you mentioned gas, you need energy, right? It's certain energy, and it's just dangerous. There's a risk involved, but not having it there's also another risk. So you got to put the whole thing in perspective. Great point, Tyrone.
Thank you.
And I think you'll love this question, maybe 30 seconds or so. Are sports a metaphor for life?
Ooh, yes, I can answer that in 3 seconds. Yes. If you heard me talk anytime, I've even used that phrase.
Did I do my homework, Tyrone?
I know, right? Your homework, man, you're on it. They don't call you Dr. Finance, man, you for nothing. You do your studies. But yeah, I think sports is a great metaphor for life. I think I would encourage anybody. I don't care if you're not good at it, if your children, get them in sports, But if you're older, you know what? No, you probably can't play in a major league, but go join some type of group in your age range. And still, sports will teach you teamwork. It'll teach you discipline. It'll teach you how to fight when you're down, how to stay on top when you're on top, how to close it out, how to close that deal. Hey, we're up by 12 points. Let's close this thing out. You're walking into a room or you're visiting your customers. Let's close this deal, okay? Or, you know what? How can we get them to believe in us? Because we don't look like who we're going to be in the future. So, yeah, sports is a great metaphor for life.
The last sentence you made, I'm sorry, I was reflecting on that. I'm trying to remember what Les Brown, he always says this all the time, and I can't remember the exact words. It's something about like what we are today, basically, is something about tomorrow and today. Like we're two different people. He's got a one sentence, one liner that's just so brilliant. I got to go back and review the tapes, but that last sentence you made is basically very, very similar to that. We're going to be different people. So if we recognize that now, whatever, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the person we want to be, like that's who we should strive for. We're going to be this person. We got to make changes to get to that goal. So,
and I've heard it like this too. Maybe this is kind of like, everybody has their own spin on it.
Yeah.
I've heard it like, I think I might have mentioned it slightly during this show. Who you are, what you will be in the future. What you will be in the future, you are already it right now.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
You just got to work your way towards that person. But what you're going to be in the future, everything you need to be that person in the future, you already got it right now. The question is, do you know what those things are? Do you know who you are? That's why I always tell people, you got to date yourself. Stop worrying about trying to go on a date with somebody else. Date yourself. Learn more about yourself. Know who you are, what you have, and what you can do. So when situations of opposition comes, you're ready. You put on your gloves. Like, let's go. I'm ready. Let's go.
I love it. And that's a unique line you just said, because that's really a great way to remember it. Like, you do need to date yourself. You got to go out and understand yourself to become a greater version of yourself, that's a beautiful point. Thank you, Tyrone. Next question, maybe 30 seconds. What would happen to civilization without sports? Now, I got to preface this question. I'm a big fan of, I consider myself a scientist. I studied a lot of great people in history, Nelson Mandela in particular. And I remember listening to an interview, and they interviewed him because he was a boxer. And he talked about sports and, sports, the importance of it to humanity. So, my question to you is, what would happen to our civilization without sports? And also considering that we had a test of this during COVID, they shut down sports. So we know the result of that. But what's your thoughts just in general? Thank you, Tyrone.
I look at it from two standpoints. I'll give you a quick 30-second answer. From a financial standpoint, I think without sports, it would be devastating, because sports gives people who are entrepreneurs an opportunity to make money doing pregame, postgame. But also from the other side, which I think this is the largest, sports brings people together. People who normally would not to each other basically have an opportunity to sit beside each other and learn each other and pull for a common goal. So I think from them two standpoints, from a financial standpoint, sports helps people with jobs, but also sports brings us together.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's a great point. From a perspective of war, we have let's face it, humanity has a destructive quality to them, as well as constructive, but they do have a destructive quality. And having sports, when you say helps them to exercise this quality, get it out of them, to release this negative energy and put it in a more productive format. So we don't have to go to war. We could just have a game.
All
right?
See who's the fastest.
Yeah. And then, of course, through that, maybe learn better ways to be good sportsmen, as they say, and women, and respect the team players. But at least we didn't have to go blow each other up and blow each other's cities up. We can just have a match in a stadium with 70,000 people and let them decide.
Humanity, making humanity better.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyrone.
Thank you.
How to be a champion? Wow, I guess I didn't really get to write that question out. How do you be a champion? 30 seconds.
Yeah, first and foremost, like I said, understand that the only voice that really matters is your voice. The only opinion that really matters is your opinion. Even though you go to other people for advice, like you alluded to, Dr. Finance, iron sharpens iron. But once you know who you are, what you have, and what you can do, then I think you're able to know and determine where you're trying to go. And I believe a champion is someone that that which is inside of you, the dream, once that dream becomes reality, then you are a champion. So if I got a dream of being a father, married, then that's a dream. But then once it becomes from the inside to the outside, then I have reached that championship. Now it's all about just maintaining that championship. So whatever it is that you want to be in life, it don't necessarily have to be you want to be married. It could be finances. I want to get out of debt, or I want to whatever. So whatever visions you have on the inside of you, once it manifests itself on the outside, then you can call yourself a champion.
That's excellent. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. we're going to get a little deep here, Tyrone. So I'm a scientist. I have to apologize. I get a little in depth sometimes. Is it possible for humans to live forever, and should they want to? And I'll repeat the question again, but in just a second, I just want to preface it. The reason I'm asking is that because we had Ed Connors on, by the way, last week. He's the guy who took Gold's Gym into the largest gym chain ever, along with his two partners. And they had all the top fitness people in the world go through his gym. I mean, all the biggest bodybuilders, wrestlers, whatnot, from Hollywood. And the stories we got in that interview was incredible. And I asked him this question. The reason I'm posing it for you, though, is because you are a physical champion. You have done things physically that make yourself a champion. So fitness very, very well. So again, the question, is it possible for humans to live forever, and should they want to?
You know what? I don't know if I would want to physically live forever, but I do believe eternally we live forever. I believe my spirit will live forever. But I don't know if I want to live forever physically, because the body is going to get older. It's going to get older. And it's just like winning. Sometimes you just get tired of winning. Like, man, look at here. Like, believe it or not, those Super Bowl rings I just held up, this backdrop. I'm like, sometimes I get tired of like looking at it. Man, it took me 5 or 6 years before I actually went back into a football stadium. Because I'm like, at that point in time, I was like tired of looking at football. But I still wanted to support my teammates that were still playing and just support the future of athletes. So from that standpoint, answering it again, I will always be eternally a player, a sports and athlete, but I don't want to play that sport forever. I want to be able to do something different. So no, I wouldn't want to live forever, but I will live forever eternally. But physically, nah, I want to do my duty, do what I'm supposed to do. And at the end, well done, my son. I'm like, okay, hey, Dr. Finance, man, I see you later. I did what I was supposed to do, and I reached my championship level. I'll see you later, man.
That's a really interesting way to put that. And I agree with that part about, I know it sounds weird, like you get tired of winning, and you're saying it in the context of sports, which you excelled in. Like I wrote 3 books. I mean, I got a whole list of things that I can go back, every certification of finance, every, security license, 6 to 63, all these things to sell stocks and all that. And I get tired. Like I don't talk about it because it's irrelevant. I only do it for branding, but in a normal life, I don't even bring that conversation up because it's just like, it's old news. All right. What are we going to accomplish next? Like that's in the past. So what else we got? And I think what you're saying sounds about similar, except you're applying it from a different industry. You're coming at it from the sports industry, but it sounds the same to me. It's
let me paint. I'm gonna paint another picture here. What makes sports so entertaining and interesting, not only to the players but the fans? And this is a question also for all you out there listening and watching. Do you know what makes sports so entertaining for the players and the fans? Well, if you do know, you're going to say, yep, I knew that. If you didn't know, you're going to say, whoa, that's interesting. It's just like the same question you proposed to me, Dr. Finance. I would not want to live long live like forever. Because the thing that makes sports so entertaining, what makes the football game so entertaining, it's not the quarterback, it's not the running back, it's not the touchdowns. What makes football and any other sport very exciting is the clock. The clock. The clock says you only have a certain amount of time to do this. Mm-hmm. And the closer that clock gets to running out, the more exciting the game becomes. So
did you say sports was a metaphor for life?
Yeah, metaphor for life. And I'm telling you. So just think, if you had no clock in life, it's like, when would you know that you won? Or when would you know that, you know what, we got to do better? So yeah, so to answer it in another way, no, I would not want to live forever in this body, but I know I will live forever in my spirit. But like I said, that what makes sports so entertaining. It's the clock. So we all have a clock on our lives. You, myself, and even somebody who's just born. But I use you and myself and all other adults that are watching. We are closer to our departure than we are our arrival. That's why you see so many people who become elderly. You know, they want to try to do as much as they can to help humanity. They're giving away their time. Whereas before, when they were younger, they felt like they had all the time in the world. You know, so sometimes time, when you know that clock is running out, it changes you. And that's what makes the game exciting.
Mm. That's brilliant. This is the type of interviews you put on repeat and listen all day, because we go from showing off rings to talking about the biggest questions in life in one episode. I love it. Thanks, Tyrone. All right, and just on the fitness tip while we're at it, and then we're going to go into temple questions. We're wrapping up here. What are 3 of your best tips for living a long and healthy life? Maybe 30 seconds or less.
Oh man, I put it to you like this. I put it like 7, 7, 5, 2. I use 3 numbers. 7, 5, 2. It's going to answer your question about like healthy and all that stuff. 7, 5, 2. There's 7 days in the week. 5 days, eat as healthy as you can. 2 days, splurge. Splurge means, if you want those Krispy Kreme donuts, if you want that Whopper, whatever. But when you splurge, you can't do it back to back, and you got to do it in moderation. So instead of going and getting a whole dozen of donuts, just get you 2 donuts, maybe 1, and don't eat all of it. Eat half of it, just enough to quench that thirst for that little sugar or whatever. So 7, 5, 2, 7 days out the week, 5 days, eat as healthy as you can. 2 days, splurge, but don't splurge back to back. And also splurge at the high point of the day. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what I would say sums up my health. And I try to exercise at least 6 times out of the day, running and lifting, yoga, stretching, whatever the case may be. So yeah, I try to keep the sizzle in the pan. I try not to let the sizzle lead the pan, because once the sizzle leads the pan, that's when you start to sit back and you start to say, man, should I go to the gym today? So you always got to keep that sizzle, because if you don't keep the sizzle, then one day you're going to look down and say, hey, hold on, I can't see my belly button.
How many hours a day do you work out? Average.
I try to, basically it's about depending on what I'm doing, but usually it's about an hour. I'll run 3 days out the week. I'll lift 3 days out the week. And I'll rest 1 day out the week. But sometimes built in that workout is a rest period, meaning it's not as strenuous in that day. So really, I'm just doing some functional stuff, and really it's kind of like idling in a car. I got the engine on, but I don't have it in drive. So the car is just idling. You know, the oil is still flowing, but I'm not putting pressure on it. So sometimes I have rest days built into my workout days, because I'm not doing strenuous stuff, but I'm still keeping the body active.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Tyrone. Tyrone, how would a champion go about getting a sponsor? Like, how do a lot of these sports players get sponsors? I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse, but just wanted to throw it out.
Well, basically, is what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you want to get sponsors, you got to show them that you are still relevant. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, now this is a term that they use for radio, TV. They ask, how many impressions do you have? Impressions just means how many eyes and ears do you have listening to your program. So the more eyes and ears you have, guess what? Those people who want to increase their money are willing to spend their money on you to give you sponsorship, because they know their money, just like when we spend our money, we don't just spend our money on anything. We spend our money on value. So your popularity, you know, how relevant are you? That's why when you look at Shaq is all over the place, man. Shaq is he's in more places than LeBron James. And LeBron James is still active. But Shaq has more impressions. He has more eyes and ears. So I think if it came to it, somebody said, okay, do you want LeBron James to sponsor you, or do you want Shaq? They're going to go with Shaq. That's just me. That's what I believe.
Where would you start with that? Would you get an agent? Let's say you're an influencer, you're a big influencer, you know, sports guy. Do you go get an agent to find that sponsor? Because that's a journey in itself.
Well, you're definitely, I think you definitely, is moving pieces. You got to find somebody who can take what you're doing and help you. It's almost like having a restaurant. I got so many analogies, man. It's like having a restaurant. Think about if you're the only person in the kitchen, you're cooking, you're chopping up the food, you're checking on this, you're giving, that's tough. So if you can get the right people in your kitchen, if you can get the right people to help you with your brand, a PR person, and you get a marketing person, you get whatever people, assistant to help you with ideas. So all you got to do is work on yourself. So I definitely believe it takes a village, it takes a team. So not only you got to know yourself, that's the first thing. You got to know who you are. What can you do? All right, that you can make it to the point where everybody will want to listen to you. Just like with you, Dr. Finance, you found your gift, you found your work, and now everybody like, hey, Dr. Finance is on, boom. So if you went out to sponsor people, they're gonna say, okay, how many eyes and ears do you have? Ooh, okay, well, you got the eyes and the ears. So now, while you're working on keeping those eyes and ears, you now may have to hire a PR person to put out there, okay, hey, Dr. Finance is on tonight. This is his show. This is what the topic is about. And they pushing it while you're sitting and formulating what you're going to talk about, the topics, the order, the outline. So it takes a team. It takes a team, but it starts first with the person in the mirror. You got to know what your gift is. And then you got to cultivate it, serve it. And then I promise you, people will come. If you build it, people will come. Now you just got to have somebody that can help push it out there.
You got to have somebody to push all the money into the bank, in the vault too, right?
Exactly. You got to have somebody back that Brinks truck.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. So the next question we're going to ask are very, very quick. They're not deep, too deep, but 30 seconds or less. Can one book change the world?
I think multiple books change the world. I think everything has not one book has everything, but I think one book has some of everything. So I think it's multiplicity helps the whole, brings the whole together.
What if you're one person? I mean, what about the Bible, for example, or Think and Grow Rich?
The Bible is one book, but it's broken up, and it's one book broken up into many books. So you can have one shelf full of multiple books. That's a bookshelf. But that bookshelf is comprised of multiple books. The Bible is one book, but it has 66 books in it.
Okay. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate
Multiplicity.
that. What role has networking played in your life? Maybe 30 seconds.
Oh man, I believe in networking. I believe in networking. Networking, I think it takes time, talent, treasure, relationships, which is a product of networking. So if you're going to be great, you put those 4 items in there and you have an opportunity to maximize time, treasure, talents, relationships, or just being around other people, networking.
Is mentoring important?
Oh, very important. Again, the student is only as good as the teacher, and the teacher is only as good as the experience that the teacher's been exposed to. The thing is, I think a lot of us, we don't know truly who we are, so we go out there wanting people to tell us who we are. But once you know who you are, then you go out there, you find the right people. And I've learned this: leaders don't look for followers. Followers look for leaders.
That's an excellent point. Tyrone, who were some of your mentors? Feel free to disclose or not to disclose.
Oh, well, first and foremost, it starts in the home by my parents and my mom and dad. I grew up with my mom and dad. My dad passed in 2005. And my mom, you know, she never remarried for whatever reason. So, but my mom and dad, the house, which I think everybody's leadership starts in the house. And then from there, you know, I could say my PE coaches growing up, they kept me in the right direction of my athletic ability. And definitely the Bible, man, the Bible, that keeps me humble. It keeps me humble. The Bible lets me know that I'm not as, should I say, I have strength, but be humble, okay? You got strength, but be humble. And just people, whether they're people who try to hurt me or people who try to help me, they have been great mentors. Because those people who tried to stop me or hinder me, they allowed me to reach back into my bag of tricks to see what else I had in there. And the people who helped me basically told me, see, I told you, you can do it. So it's, again, using that word, multiplicity. So yeah, all those situations help the one cause.
Thank you. That's brilliant. All right. Tyrone, do we need money to survive? Maybe 30 seconds.
Yes, you need money to survive. This is a capitalistic world, and money. Money does give you an opportunity. Money won't make you happy now. It won't make you joyful, but money will give you an opportunity to try to be happy. But yes, you need money. That's just how this world operates. It operates off of currency. And currency, the word current, means to flow. So if you're not flowing, then you're stuck. And nobody likes to be stuck. So yes, you need currency.
Thank you, Tyrone. Tyrone, along that thread, is finance necessary for everyone? Now, finance, I'm not talking about funding, because that term's used loosely to mean like getting money. I mean finance, the science of finance. Like, is that, you think that is necessary for everyone?
Finance is like the water and the wet. People say they want the money, but you got to understand the finances. You say you want to jump in the pool, but you understand the wet comes with the water. So what you're doing, the finance, education. So when they get the money, they're able to understand how it flows. So yes, finance is definitely important.
That's a brilliant point. Thank you, Tyrone. 3 questions left. How important is having a purpose in business?
Purpose is very important. Again, if you don't know where you're going, how do you ever know when you got there?
What is your purpose, Tyrone? Like, if you can quantify that in one sentence, like what would you say to the world? My purpose is, and going back to what you said, job versus work, right? Like, you're past your job now. You're not a football player anymore. What is your purpose of what you do?
My purpose is to take my situations in life, because life is a school. My purpose is to inform people with principal information so that they can have ultimate success in their experience of life and graduate life, should I say, with a smile on their face. So taking principal information and helping people overcome their experiences so they can graduate life with a smile on their face.
Thank you, Tyrone. Brilliant. 2 questions left. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why? Movies, more books, anything.
I want to, if I could, but I can't. I can't change my past. But what I can do is to make all my enemies become at peace with me. So to do that, I know everybody not gonna like me, But that don't mean that we can't be peaceful with one another. So the more peace we have amongst each other, then I think we make a better world for those to come and also those that are present. So, if I could do anything, it's just continue to be better to the point where even my enemies will say, you know what, man, dude don't change his life so much, man, forget it, man. You know what, we're going to call a truce right here.
I like it. That's very different. That's a good one. Yeah, because I guess if you get to that point, everything else falls in place.
There you go. You know what? There's a joke, Dr. Finance. They say, what is the most important thing to a dead man? What is the most important thing to a dead man? And you made me think about this when you say, well, hey, after that, nothing else really matters. The most important thing to a dead man is life. Because without life, like you said, nothing else matters. So life, man. So that's why I say the more peace we have in our lives, the more we can maximize.
I like it. All right, last question. And speaking of this, what would you like to be your legacy to the world?
Oh, man.
On your tombstone, what do you want them to say?
I'm laughing.
Remember, you can't write on your own tombstone. They got to put it on your tombstone.
Yeah.
So
I'm laughing because actually this is a slogan that I use. On my tombstone, my legacy, I want to be, he worked that thing. That's my slogan, work that thing. I'm like, work that thing, no matter what you do, work that thing. So on my tombstone, 500 years from now, like you said, I don't want to live forever, but if, hey, if that's the case, I live forever, but at least, when my time comes on my tombstone, my legacy, I want to say across the top, he worked that thing.
Wow. I like it. All right. Well, thank you, Tyrone. We're going to close out now. I wanted to first, again, thank you for being here. And we went a little bit overboard today, but hey, we got to hang out and get to know each other. So I'm very honored to do that. Honored to have you here. And looking forward to our clubhouse event, which should be in 3 weeks from now. We're gonna have an awesome stage. We're gonna bring it very well that night. It's gonna be a lot of major influencers there and regular people too, of course. And we're gonna help a lot of people. So with that said, I'd like to leave the floor to you first before we close out. Any last things you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote? Show your book one more time. Where we can find out about you some more. Whatever you like to say, the floor is yours, Tyrone.
Yeah, again, thank you, Dr. Finance. I want to say, man, it's an honor. I appreciate it. You're my brother, man, and I hope we continue to, not even just podcasts, man, or shows, man, but we just pick up the phone and just encourage each other. Hey, Anthony, how you doing? Dr. Finance, how you doing, sir? Hope the family is well, because we need that. We need to encourage each other. Who counsels the counselor when the counselor needs counseling? But anybody that want to find out more about Tyrone Poole, you can go to TyronePoole38.com. That's the official website. Again, it's TyronePoole38.com. There you have opportunity to see all of previous interviews that I've done, see what I'm doing. You also have opportunity to pick up this great, awesome, magnificent, life-changing book right here, Ultimate Success in the Game of Life. Social media, if you want to find out what I'm doing on social media, just go to Tyrone Poole 38. Try to brand Tyrone Poole 38. First, last name, and my football number. So Tyrone Poole 38. And also the Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation. If you guys looking for a foundation to give to, Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation is a 501c3 organization. Right now, we're currently in the process of holding an event in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm here in Atlanta. But the Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation is not only locally, but it's globally. And the purpose is to help build champions locally and globally, giving everybody an opportunity. I know, Dr. Finance, you asked me what was a champion. So the foundation is what we try to do, build champions. And the champion, again, like I alluded to, and spoke of, a champion is someone that takes what they have inside and it goes from a dream to reality. So that's what we're trying to do. And we do that through fitness, education, and humanitarian efforts. But the heartbeat of the foundation is the family. Yes, I am divorced, but at the end of the day, my ex and myself, we still have a good relationship when it comes to the kids. Because at the end of the day, our sons and our daughter, my ex and myself, or their mother, should I say, we are the closest, I believe, to God on this earth that they will see. And I think if we fix the family, whether the mother and father are together or not together, we can make sure that our youth have a better future. Because one day we're going to get old and we want to make sure we leave the future in good hands. So Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation.org. Again, Tyrone Poole 38 Foundation.org. Thank you, Dr. Finance. I really appreciate it, brother. And I enjoyed myself, man. Enjoyed it. Time just went by fast, but just like on the play clock, man, look at here. We got 10 seconds, 9, 8. Look, it's time to take that knee now. Take that knee, victory position. We got this game won.
Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate it. Yeah, man, this was a great interview. Great hanging out with you. So definitely check out Tyrone, folks, on his website as well as social media. He's definitely on Clubhouse. He's on Instagram. Tyrone, where's your other social media sites at?
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Again, all social media. Just put in social media and put in Tyrone Poole 38. And yeah, it should send you somewhere. And if you get lost, just go to TyronePoole38.com.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate that. Folks, we're going to close out here. This is Dr. Anthony, Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast. Folks, if you want to find out more information, just go to the website here, drfinance.info in the window. And from there, you can find out all the links to the official social media platforms. There's a lot of copycats out there. Just make sure you always go to somebody's website, and then you can link to their social media platforms from there to be safe. You're on the right social media platform. Also, don't forget, we're going to follow, like, and subscribe, folks. We're going to push this out to YouTube and then all the different social media directories. There's about, I believe, over 20. So it's going to get a lot of traction, but I would like for you to follow, like, and subscribe if you can. These are my 3 books, folks. The Necessity of Finance. I wrote this for my finance students when I was a finance professor for about 10 years. My first book, and that was over 10 years ago. And from that led me to the second book. And Tyrone talked about principles, the most important lessons in economics and finance. 218 principles, like Tyrone was talking about. These are things that are they're permanent, they're universal, right? They're not rules, they're principles. And which led me to the last book, which is The Survival of the Richest, about 500+ page book, basically marrying survival, the science of survival, finance, economics, and biology, going as an extension to the greatest scientists in history. Check it out, folks. And check out Tyrone's book as well. Tyrone, what's that book called again?
Hey, ultimate success in the game of life.
And don't forget to buy it from Tyrone's website to give 100% royalties to Tyrone so he can help more people out as well. So thanks again, folks. Appreciate you all. And we're going to see you on the next episode. And hopefully, if you're watching this in real time, again, it would be June 3rd, Friday, between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. Just go to the Finance Club on Clubhouse, and Tyrone will be speaking there. And don't forget to follow him as there as well. Okay. So thanks again, folks. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye now.